UN Chief António Guterres made an urgent call to action at the annual climate summit in Baku, Azerbaijan. He told the few world leaders gathered there at this year's COP29 to reach a deal that does not leave poorer countries, quote, empty-handed.
There is no time to lose. On climate finance, the world must pay up or humanity will pay the price. Excellencies, in this crucial period, you and your governments must be guided by a clear truth. Climate finance is not charity, it's an investment. Climate action is not optional, it's an imperative. Both are indispensable to a livable world for all humanity and a prosperous future for every nation on earth. The clock is ticking.
This year's summit is focused on boosting funding for developing countries to deal with the effects of climate change. Despite those dire warnings, Mr. Guterres offered an optimistic message about clean energy. He stressed that no government can stop the revolution and called countries doubling down on fossil fuels absurd. The sentiment has been challenged by the leader of the country hosting COP29 itself.
And the government of Azerbaijan.
It's a gift of the God. Every natural resource, whether it's oil, gas, wind, sun, gold, silver, copper, all that are natural resources. And countries should not be blamed for having them and should not be blamed for bringing these resources to the market because the market needs them. The people need them.
For more, we're joined by CNA's climate change correspondent Jack Bott, live in Baku. Jack, our climate finance, that's just one of many goals that need to be achieved in terms of tackling the climate crisis. But if we take the Azerbaijani president's words as he take him seriously on that, it suggests that even finance, that might be hard to reach.
Yeah, that's right. Undoubtedly, climate finance is central to everything that's being discussed here at COP29. But what you've just heard there from those two speeches is the evidence that there is deep division here. There is deep disagreements about the ways to try and tackle this global climate crisis, and as well to raise the trillions of dollars that are needed, especially by developing nations, climate vulnerable nations right around the world. So you heard there from the Azerbaijan President Aliyev, who once again called fossil fuels a gift from God. Azerbaijan's economy is completely dominated by oil and gas. It makes up 90% of their exports. They have now emerged as a very important link in the chain to provide natural gas to Europe because of the Ukraine and Gaza crisis. So what he's saying there is these countries shouldn't be blamed for providing what many countries in the West actually need to survive, keep the power on in the residents all across Europe. So he definitely took aim at the United States there as well, saying that there are double standards and that, simply these countries need to be realistic when they approach this topic. And then we also heard from António Guterres as well, with using his really colourful language as always, and saying that, humanity is going to pay the price if, this finance is not realised.
Oh, Jack, just before we crossed to you, we're speaking to our correspondent in Washington. We're looking at possible shifts in foreign policy and immigration in Washington because of the incoming Trump administration. Of course, another change might be on energy. Now, Mr. Trump has famously called the Green New Deal the Green New Scam. With this administration likely reversing progress the Biden administration has made on climate action, how are Southeast Asian countries going to cope with that?
Yeah, no doubt the re-election of Donald Trump is already causing serious ripples throughout these climate negotiating circles, and no less to many countries in Southeast Asia. We can't forget that these countries, part of the global south, countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, are all pushing for a lot of this climate finance because they are starting to feel the heavy impacts of climate change. So I spoke just a short time ago to the Secretary General of Malaysia's Ministry of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability. Have a listen to what he had to say about some of the fears that these countries are starting to feel because of the changing US administration.
We heard that US might be withdrawn from the Paris Agreement. If that happens, it's going to be bad for the world climate community, I would say, right? Being one of the biggest donors to that, right? I hope that is going to happen soon. I don't know. But again, to some extent, it has an impact on the world combating the climate change if US were to withdraw from the Paris Agreement.
We've also heard from Indonesia's lead envoy to COP29 here today in Baku. They are opening the doors for international investment in the renewable energy sector. They're looking at something like 75 gigawatts to be installed in Indonesia over the next 15 years. We know that Indonesia is one of the leading greenhouse gas emissions contributors around the world. They will need to, totally transform their energy mix. And it seems under the new administration of Prabowo Subianto that some of those doors are starting to open, and they will be trying to attract as much green finance as they can at this summit.
Oh, thanks for that. CNA's climate change correspondent Jack Ford live from Baku in Azerbaijan.